Before I start today's video, I would like to give a massive thank you to Hera for platforming my channel recently, and to the community as a whole for your supportive comments and feedback. I did not expect this level of support, and I'm overwhelmed by your kindness. I wanted to assure everyone that more content is on the way, and I have upgraded my mic, so hopefully the sound quality is better. Thank you all for your support, and I hope you enjoy today's video. On December 1st, 2025, the legendary tournament King of the Desert will return to our screens. King of the Desert is an S-tier tournament played on just one map, and that map is Arabia. Arabia is a semi-open map, which is often described by players of all elos as the most balanced map in the game. Players start with 8 sheep, 2 boars, a group of huntable animals like chicken or deer, berry bushes, a few wood lines, and gold and stone deposits all close to their base. Players do not begin with any walls and must expand their base to reach the evenly distributed neutral resources across the rest of the map. If you watch pro players stream on Twitch, then you will know that Arabia is by far the most popular map for ranked ladder matches. This is because the map allows for a variety of different strategies. You can play open and focus on an aggressive strategy to pin your opponent back, or you can play more defensive, set down some walls, and try to fast castle into more powerful castle age units. From aggressive to balanced to defensive strategies, Arabia makes all of these viable. It is this flexibility that ensures a tournament played solely on one map will still have exciting games. Games will still largely follow the meta of the time, but because all of the top players play on Arabia every single day, it will allow each player to show their absolute best on a map they are all extremely familiar with. The player who wins this tournament then can truly be called the champion of the ranked ladder. So who will win King of the Desert? Well, at the time of recording the video, the players have not yet even been invited, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Hera. Obviously, predicting just the winner when a single player has won the last 13 S-tier tournaments is a little bit boring. So instead, let's take a look at what we can expect from the players and the civilizations by looking at the recent data. The good thing about Arabia being such a popular map is that we actually have a decent amount of S-tier tournament data over the last few years to give us an indication of what to expect in terms of civilizations and how players might look to gain an advantage over their opponents. The first data point I wanted to see was civilization selection trends on Arabia, which civs have been selected most often by year, and how that has changed over time. I have limited this data to civs that have been played at least 5 times on Arabia in S-tier tournaments since 2022 to avoid too many outliers. This is how the data looks if we sort by most selected civilizations on Arabia in 2025 and compare this to previous years. What we can see is that the Khitans have gained immediate popularity and have a win rate to match. The Vietnamese, Maya, Hindustanis, and Mongols have also been heavily favoured, which shows a clear feudal scout or archer meta in 2025, despite the recent infantry buffs. It is important to mention that a civ doesn't necessarily guarantee what opening a player is going for. For example, it's common to open archers as Franks to surprise an opponent expecting scouts, but it gives us a general idea. We also have an interesting group just below this that includes the Khmer, Georgians, Lithuanians, and Byzantines. These civs would indicate a spear skirm or faster castle meta as being the second and third most popular choices based on civ selections. Then we have some more obscure Arabia selections towards the bottom of the list. And what is interesting here is that there is only one infantry civ, and that is Inca. This maybe suggests that the buffed infantry has not yet convinced S-tier players of its viability in S-tier tournaments. It would be interesting to hear from some S-tier players to get their thoughts on if the infantry buffs have changed our perspective of which civs are viable in these tournaments, particularly on Arabia. This data also highlights civs that have waned in popularity over the last 2 years or so. Chinese, who were once amongst the most selected civs, have not yet been selected at all in 2025 on Arabia. Whilst the buffed infantry has done nothing to stop the Aztec selection decline also on Arabia. The Malians also seem to have dropped off after their 2024 peak. I also wanted to see how the most popular civs since 2022 fare when it comes to win rate percentage. We can see that the Khmer and Inca have high win rates compared to their selection rate, but their selection rate is low compared to the Mayas, who also have an extremely impressive win rate, and are also the most popular civ on Arabia over the past 4 years. The Portuguese also do pretty well on win rate here and also have a pretty high selection rate. It is interesting to see the win rate of Vietnamese too, who are consistently quite popular, but their win rate percentage is underwhelming for how often they are chosen. The Hindustanis also have been historically underwhelming since their switch from the Indians in mid-2022, but seem to have seen a resurgence in 2025. The Mongols also seem to be less effective at this level compared to previous years, perhaps due to dealing with Mongol pickers on the ladder for so long. As a 1200 ELO player, please give me some tips guys, because I still can't figure that one out. It will be interesting to see how these trends continue and change throughout King of the Desert 6. There will be so much more data after this tournament that I will also do a review video so we can compare how these trends changed over the course of the tournament. I think this will be particularly interesting when looking at the difference between the chicken Arabia meta and the deer Arabia meta. So what about civilization selections by player? Well, there is some interesting data to be seen here too. This is a list of S-tier players who have selected a civ more than 5 times on Arabia since 2022. We can see that the Maya are by far the most popular amongst Hera, the Viper and Leary, but Yo prefers a bit more variety and has only selected Hindustanis more than 5 times. Hera and Viper also play a lot as the Chinese, but that's unsurprising as neither player has lost as that civ on Arabia since 2022. So I for one am desperate to see a Hera v Viper Chinese mirror match at this King of the Desert to see who can end the other's streak. Another interesting data point here is Tato, who has selected Tatars 7 times since 2022. This is compared to an overall selection number of 30, which means Tato is responsible for almost a quarter of all Tatar picks on Arabia since 2022. A couple of other rogue selections are Winchester choosing Britons 5 times and having an 80% win rate with them. MBL is also living up to his off-meta reputation by selecting Berbers 5 times and the Spanish 5 times. To put that into perspective, since 2022 across the player base, Berbers have been selected only 9 times and the Spanish 6 times on Arabia. That means MBL makes up 55% of all Berber selections on Arabia and 83.3% of Spanish selections on Arabia, a true off-meta player. In terms of civilizations that players perform the worst against, everyone seems to struggle against Maya on Arabia except for the Viper, who has won 8 out of 12 encounters against them. Leary really struggles against them though, with only 3 wins out of 10 since 2022. Interestingly, in 4 games against the Portuguese, Tato has only won once. And this is the same for the Viper against Tatars. I have also compiled the data of which civilizations these players perform best against, and there seems to be an interesting mix. Hera has a 6 out of 6 win rate on Arabia since 2022 against the Lithuanians, Huns, Hindustanis, and Mongols, whilst Doubt is also 3 for 3 versus the Mongols. MBL mocks the meta with his 4 out of 4 versus Portuguese, whilst Yo and Winchester easily sweep aside the Franks. Hart is also adept at dealing with the Vietnamese with an impressive 5 out of 6 record against them. So what can we expect in terms of head-to-head games on Arabia? How do these players compare when facing each other? Well, I have separated this list into 2 categories, and that is Stomps and Classics. In the Stomps category, we have players that have consistently dominated their opponents on Arabia. MBL is 5-0 versus Sito, Hera is 7-1 up on Yo and 8-2 up on the Viper, and the Viper is up 5-1 on MBL. Hera and Lyri is slightly more competitive at 6-3, but we also have a host of potentially highly competitive games between the Viper and Heart, where Viper leads 3-2. This is also the case for Vinchester and Heart. Looking at this data, we can also expect competitive series between Tato, Yo, Lyri, and the Viper, who are all within a game of each other in their respective Arabia battles since 2022. Finally, I wanted to look at how each player fares against the top 5 players to see if anyone does particularly well against Hera, Yo, the Viper, Lyri, and Tato on Arabia. Sito actually has a great record of 9 games and 5 wins versus the top 5, which breaks down to 3 wins versus Lyri and 2 wins versus Yo. Doubt fans can also be encouraged by his victories over Yo, which occurred twice, and Lyri, Tato, and the Viper once across 11 Arabia games since 2022. I want to do Lyri justice here because by virtue of him being one of the best players, he tends to end up playing Hera a lot. So it wouldn't be fair to leave him hanging in mid-table without mentioning that he's played 9 Arabia games against Hera, in which he's lost 6 of them. This accounts for 60% of his Arabia losses against the top 5. What I wanted to highlight with this data is how competitive the scene actually is on Arabia. Whilst there is still some dominance on display, Arabia is a map none of these players need specific practice on because they play it every day. This isn't going to be about time to prepare strategies for specific maps. It's going to be about executing game plans and getting the Civ draft right and improvising around admin and player Civ bans. These players know this map, know their civilizations, and they know their strengths. And with all this in mind, the data makes me super excited for the tournament, and I'm expecting some very competitive series. And I cannot wait to explore this data again post King of the Desert 6. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more of this content.